It's the most popular wine grape varietal on the planet. What exactly is it? We'll find out. Also, I'm going to be opening a 20-year-old bottle of Bordeaux. Is it any good? Did it turn to vinegar? How much is it worth? We're going to be talking about all that and so much more on this episode of The Average Wine Enthusiast. Hi there, everybody. My name is Mike LaPlante, and I'm the Average Wine Enthusiast. On this episode, I thought I would talk about the most popular wine varietal out there. Now, when I say most popular, I mean the grape that is in the ground the most, that covers the most acreage. And of course, I am talking about Cabernet Sauvignon. When I say that it has the most acreage, it is the number one grape in terms of acreage. As far as acreage goes, Cabernet Sauvignon covers more than 800,000 acres of land in vineyards. The next grape on the list of top grapes in the ground is Merlot, which is around 600,000 acres. And below that is Tempranillo to round out the top three. And of course, Tempranillo is used heavily in Spain and in Italy for different wines that are blended in those two countries. The origin of Cabernet Sauvignon doesn't really go back that far in comparison to your Merlots and your Cab Francs and your Chardonnays. That's because it probably came about by accident. A lot of folks think that that's what happened, that the parents of Cabernet Sauvignon, which are Cabernet Franc and Sauvignon Blanc, somehow got together and they formed a baby and they called it Cabernet Sauvignon. No, that's not how that all worked out, but folks think that is a mistake or an accident, not a mistake, definitely not a mistake when your grape varietal becomes the number one in the world. It was done accidentally, and the reason people think that is because Sauvignon Blanc is a white wine grape varietal, and of course Cab Franc is a red. Not too often you would mix those two or even think it would be a good idea. But for whatever reason, those two grapes together would form Cabernet Sauvignon, which turns out to be a pretty awesome grape for making wine. Why is that? Well, the grape itself is like a round grape as opposed to like a oblong grape, and it's spherical, it's black, and the skin on it is very thick. I shouldn't say very thick, but it's a thick skin grape. And that is good in terms of two things. For one, it allows you to grow longer, to boost the sugar up to the amount that you want it to be before you pick it, before you make your wine. Also, the skin helps it prevent getting diseases, fungus and molds and other critters that like to feast on grape plants. So that makes for a good grape to grow, but also it has lots of good qualities in terms of taste. It's high in tannin, decent acidity, has decent fruit forward flavors as well. So you have all this stuff going for it, and so that would be one reason why lots of vineyards planted this grape. This is especially true. A lot of folks think that the reason Cabernet Sauvignon got its initial boost was because of the phylloxera disease that, of course, happened in 1860 something in Europe and wiped out all the grapes. I know I've talked about it in previous episodes. Go check it out yourself. And So what did they replace those flocks or ravaged vineyards with but Cabernet Sauvignon? Because they were able to plant them in different places, based on the little micro climates they have over there. Now, Cabernet Sauvignon is oftentimes blended with another grape, especially in France. It almost always is blended with something, because that's just what they do in France. But in other countries where they sell single varietal Cabernet Sauvignon, which there's got to be a certain percentage of the master grape in there. In North America, it's 75%. It's usually blended with Merlot or its dad, Cabernet Franc. Oftentimes it's Petit Verdot or Petit Syrah, which I talked about on a couple shows ago. Check out that episode as well, as far as being a blending grape and doing wonderful things to grapes that didn't produce well, didn't get enough sun, didn't get enough rain. The soil was degenerated somehow. Blending helps Cabernet Sauvignon, and it's very well receptive of the blending grapes that get put into it. So that's why every Cabernet Sauvignon was different, depending on what it was blended with. Also, it grows everywhere. It has that's why another reason why it's widely planted as well. It grows very well in Chile. Of course, it grows in Europe. They grow it awesome Cabernet Sauvignon in California. Even here in Canada and British Columbia, they make really decent Cabernet Sauvignon. So you're going to get different terroirs. You're going to get different climates, but they all will grow a Cabernet Sauvignon to some form of a good wine that is easily appreciated. So it's no surprise that Cabernet Sauvignon is one of the widely grown grapes in the world. What I have here is a Cabernet Sauvignon that I opened last night. We finished a bottle of something else. I want to say it was a Cabernet Sauvignon as well. I want to say it was a Lees and Fitch. If you ever see a Lees and Fitch on your wine shelf, I would pick it up. It's a good wine. But here is another good California Cabernet Sauvignon. This is, I want to see exactly where, it's Geyserville, California. So that's closer to the coast than Napa, just north of Sonoma there. And they grow some Cabernet Sauvignon there at Tom Gore Vineyards. And this is a really good Cabernet Sauvignon. You're going to spend somewhere between $20 and $25 for this bottle of wine, which is kind of like a sweet spot, I find. You can get some clunkers in that price range, but this one is not a clunker. This is a really good Cabernet Sauvignon that cellars well. That's another thing about Cabernet Sauvignon. Most of them do cellar very well. They keep their flavor up for a long period of time, at least 10 years probably. It's one of the few varietals that are designed to last that long, unless of course there's a Cabernet Sauvignon out there. Since there's so many Cabernet Sauvignons out there, there's the low end and then there's the high end. But the low end obviously is not going to last 10 years. But then there's some Cabernet Sauvignons that are made to be decades old. So this is a Tom Gore. It is a 2016. And we're just going to pour a little bit of this, and I can tell you what you might be able to expect in a Cabernet Sauvignon that is pretty decent. Give it a little swirl. On the nose, you're going to smell some black cherry, some vanilla, maybe a little bit of leather. You're going to notice some oak on there, because all Cabernet Sauvignon ages for some period of time in an oak barrel. So you should be able to catch some of that as well. Let's give it a sip. Again, you're going to get some dark black cherries, also currants, more vanilla, and also some like cedar. And let's have another sip here. And just a hint of like graphite, something like that. Not quite wet clay or anything like that, but graphite. So yeah, it's fruit forward, gives there's lots of body, fills your palate from front to back. Really nice finish. I can still feel the finish going down, and it's not too spicy or peppery. It's just very nice. Tom Gore, definitely pick up a bottle of this if you see it. It's highly recommendable, and I'm glad I pulled it out of my cellar last night. So that's Cabernet Sauvignon. Obviously, everybody who listens to this or watches this show is familiar with Cabernet Sauvignon. But I just thought we'd give it a little talk, give you some facts, some stats, and what you can expect out of a good Cabernet Sauvignon. Okay, now for the fun part of this show. I've been waiting to do this for a few weeks now. Most recently, I had a friend of mine who was gifted a bottle of wine from a wine enthusiast friend of his, who I do not know. And the thing is, though, my friend is not a wine drinker. He initially told me when he got this bottle of wine, he said, "Hey, I got this really old bottle of wine that my friend gave to me. I'd like you to come over and we'll open it and enjoy it and see what you think of it." But that never happened. So he wants to see this bottle of wine get drank. So he said, "I'm going to give it to you, and I would like you to open it up on the show and let me know what you think of it that way." So I said, "Bring it on. That's awesome." So what is this bottle of wine that he was given? Well, it's a Chateau Latour du Pin Figeac. Yeah. Latour du Pin Figeac. And it is a Grand Cru Classé, which is not even a class anymore over there in France. But it is from the Saint-Emilion Grand Cru appellation. It's in one of the most common, most well-known sections of Bordeaux. Now, this ties in very nicely to the bit I just did on Cabernet Sauvignon, because in Bordeaux, what they grow is Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot. So that's what this wine is. It's a blend of those two grapes. And that's what you're going to find most in Bordeaux is Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot blended into these wines. What does it say on the back? It is in English. La Chateau offers a beautiful, intense, deep ruby color. Well, that's the first sentence. What you'll notice with this bottle of wine, though, is that as wine ages, after it gets to a certain point, it starts losing some of the pigments that are in it. Probably the terpenes die off or whatever. And what a common thing is, doesn't matter what the varietal is, I've noticed this in other older wines that I've seen opened, is they turn red, rusty, and you get this like an orange ring around the edge of the glass, right at the edge of the. So it's lighter, different color than the wine itself. Very common thing. That will usually signify that it is definitely an old bottle of wine. So what can happen when wine gets really old? It can turn to vinegar. But fortunately for us, this one did not turn to vinegar. It still smells like wine. I have yet to taste it. It's been sitting out for probably about 2 hours in this glass here. I didn't decant the whole bottle because I'll drink it later on. And I just wanted to make sure I had enough to taste here and to show you the color of the wine itself. This wine on Vivino says that this vintage of a bottle, if you can find it, is $75, which doesn't make any sense at all to me. 20-year-old bottle of wine. How do you put a value on a 20-year-old bottle of wine of $75? to me, that makes me think that it wasn't worth very much when it was released, which I'm thinking it probably was worth $40, $50, $60 when it was released. Did it only go up $15 in 20 years or whatever, 18, 15 years? I'm not sure. So that number is throwing me off a little bit. But so for a Bordeaux that is of this age, from this section of Bordeaux, I tend to think it's going to be a yummy glass of wine. Okay, let's give this Bordeaux Chateau Latour de Pin Figeac. Wait, first let's see the process of opening this bottle of wine. All right, I'm going to attempt to open this bottle of Bordeaux with a what's called an assaut. That's this unit right here. But first, I have to take off the foil. And then what you do is you stick, I should be doing it with my left hand so you can see what I'm doing. See, these are two different lengths. This one is longer than that one. So I'm going to stick this one in first. Try to get it right on the edge. I push it back and forth. Houston, we may have a problem. The cork went into the bottle just by me pushing on it. So can I get it out? I don't know. So the object is to get also on your cork like that. You want it to be flat on top. But before I could get it to that point, the cork gave out because it's probably deteriorated on the bottom. I was able to do that, so I'm much more hopeful that I'm going to be able to get this out now. Bam. As you can see, this cork is deteriorating. To make sure we don't get any pieces of cork in there. And there we go. We are decorked. A taste and see how it stood the test of time, as it were. On the nose, we have some oak and some licorice, black currant. There's like an ashy hint in there as well. Let's give it a taste. More oak, some plums, more black currant, just a hint of vanilla. Very, very yummy. It's astounding that this wine still holds up. It's still got decent acidity, still fruit forward. The finish is very subtle, but it's still there. I can feel it finishing off on the bottom of my palate there. There you have it. 2000 Bordeaux wine still holds up. Is it worth $70 or 70 something dollars? I don't know. That's a good question. The fact that it's that old and it tastes this good, it's something that's unique that you would not be able to probably find in a younger wine. Not that I could probably afford, but maybe if I was spending $70 on a bottle of wine more often, I would say, oh yeah, this reminds me of, but I don't spend that much money. I'm the average wine enthusiast, making average dollars. So my wine budget is definitely average. So I'd like to thank my friend Paul for hooking me up with this bottle of wine. It's very delicious. I can't wait to finish it off. It probably would go great with a medium rare steak cooked on your Weber grill over some hot coals, I'm thinking, with some sauteed mushrooms. Yeah, that's where this wine belongs, I think. But it's also great just for sipping and analyzing and checking out the colors on this, because it's also very unique. When you see something like this in your glass, you almost feel as though you're not drinking wine, you're drinking something else. Some decent legs on it. I'm thinking it's not that high in alcohol. 13% alcohol by volume, which isn't high, which makes it for a very pleasant drinking wine. I guess that's going to do it for this episode of the show. I'd like to thank the Big Organ Trio for letting me use their music, and I would like to thank you for watching, and please subscribe if you're not already. If you have any comments, let me know down below in the comment section down there. Also, if you know anybody who, like yourself, is into wine, doesn't want to spend a lot of money, wants to find out a little bit more about wine, turn your friends onto the show and have them subscribe as well. That would be awesome, and I would really appreciate it. Until next time, my name is Mike LaPlante, and I'm the average wine enthusiast. Salute!